turned on? Is the switch on it?
Well, it's on.
There we go.
All right, very good. So,
Wait. Is it on?
this looks suspiciously like. So even though we don't have the title of this presentation, it is sure to be fascinating and synthetic, and that's why we put Niklas at the end of the day here, just to make sure you remain, okay? And here you are, and here you are. So without further ado, let us go into our last lecture of the evening before you confront the burning ground tomorrow. Okay, Niklas.
Not working? Yes. Hello? Yes? You hear me now, Brett? All right. All right. Yeah, so let's see where we end up. Let's try to get a little bit more familiar with the Pleiades and the seven sisters. Just a question to you straight out. How many of you know the names of the seven sisters of the Pleiades? Now, that's not so many of you who know that. Alcyone is one. That's right. That's right. That's good. That's good. And you have another here? Merope, that's another. Yes, that's right. Not that I know of, per se. No, no. Probably a relative somehow. Yes. After all, it's a big family up there. So we've been taught in esoteric astrology that the Pleiades and the seven sisters are very important to us. It's been said that they represent, should we say, the mother aspect for our solar system, which can itself be considered as the son of that mother. So we have been nurtured by the mother, which is very much the Pleiades and the seven sisters in our development as a solar system. And even so, we've been told in the esoteric teachings that in particular our planet, the Earth, has a very close connection to the Pleiades as well. Mother Earth, as our planet is also known as. But somehow these seven sisters are still very, very distant to us. And yet they have such a profound closeness to us. After all, they are our mother, so to speak. And when you think about the relation you have had with your mother when you grew up, I assume most of us have had a very close relation. And you know your mother quite well in many ways. But it seems that we have somewhat separated ourselves from the mother in terms of its nurturing with respect to the solar system and to the planet. It is a separation which is reflecting also what is taking place on our planet, I would say, in terms of how we treat the feminine, how imbalanced things are upon our planet still. So our little discussion this evening could be an attempt to somehow, restore the balance slightly by bringing in some of the consciousness related to the seven sisters and the Pleiades. So we have been told in the teachings that the Pleiades are the central group of the system of sidereal astronomy. They are found in the neck of the bull, the constellation of the bull, and they are therefore in the Milky Way, because the bull, Taurus, the bull, is actually found in the Milky Way. It's in the zodiacal belt, but it's also in the Milky Way. It plays a dual role, Taurus does. It's a dual constellation. You have the two horns of the bull, and the neighboring constellation of Gemini is also in the zodiac as well as in the galactic plane. And it is, as you know, also a dual constellation, very much playing dual roles. But the Pleiades are found in the neck of the bull in Taurus. And they are thus considered Alcyone, yes, you got that one, in particular as the central point around which our universe of fixed stars revolve. The central point around which our universe of fixed stars revolve. Now that's quite a statement, isn't it? Now Alcyone, if we go back to this picture, can I borrow your,
right here.
This is it? Yeah. And it's got a green laser, appropriate for the third aspect and the third ray, because the third aspect is related to the mother, and this is the mother. Alcyone is this central star. It's the most luminous star of them all, and can be considered as a representative for the seven sisters as a whole, and even for the whole cluster. Because as you can see in this picture, there are actually quite a lot more stars here and there of this very distinct bluish white light, most of them being supergiant stars. Quite young, because they have a very short time span being bluish white supergiants. They go through their life cycle very much faster than does a yellow star like our own sun, or any of the types of orangey or brown dwarfs, etc., etc. They have a much longer time span. But these stars have a short time span, lifespan, and are actually quite young in cosmic considerations. So Alcyone is the central one and represents the seven as a whole, the nine as a whole, because these are the two parents of the seven sisters. They are Atlas and Pleione, Atlas and Pleione, the parents of the seven sisters. So, in addition to the nine, there are all these other many which are part of the cluster in itself. So there are many, many stars in the cluster as a whole. And it's one of the closest clusters there is to our position in the galaxy, which makes this cluster of the Pleiades very impressive to us. It's about, well, 400, 500 light years away. That's a rough figure given. So it's quite a distance, but in terms of being close, in terms of a cluster, it's still quite close to us. So here we have a diagram of the bull. Here is that great red star in the eye of the bull, which is called Aldebaran, which is one of the 4 royal stars known to the Persians, making up the fixed cross of the heavens. The opposite star to Aldebaran is Antares in Scorpio, the heart of the scorpion. It's then Regulus in the heart of the lion. And opposite to the lion and to Regulus, we have Fomalhaut in the constellation of the southern fish, which is a constellation connected to Aquarius. The water bear is pouring out the water from his cup, and the fish is in the stream of that flowing, life-giving water, receiving that life-giving water. It could be said in certain respects that it's actually the fish which is the origin and source of that life-giving water. But that's a long story. Anyway, Fomalhaut is that other star which makes it a perfect cross, which is the fixed cross in the heavens, focused in these 4 royal stars. The fixed cross in the heavens, as you know, is the cross of the disciple and the initiate to a certain extent. And hence, these 4 stars are very important for anyone who is treading the path of discipleship. You will be coming under the influence of one or other of these stars in each and every life on the path of discipleship. So those are also always close to us, much closer than you think if you're living the life of discipleship. So here are the horns of the bull, and in the neck of the bull we then have the Pleades, like so. So the Pleades are quite close to the royal star of Aldebaran. You can understand why it is said that the Pleiades are found in the neck of the bull, because here you have the head and here you have the neck stretching backwards to the body of the bull. So this is in the neck of the bull. Let's skip the first one here and just look at the second one. Taurus is regarded as the central group of the Milky Way. The Pleiades as the central group of the bull, and Alcyone, one of the 7 Pleiades, is supposed to be the star around which our universe revolves. So again, we have that same statement about a revolution where Alcyone and the Pleiades are somewhat central. They are central here. Here's another statement. Our sun is traveling through space, carrying our system along in its sphere of influence around our own central and conditioning star, which it has been rightly presumed exists in the constellation Taurus, the bull, being found in the Pleiades. So again, there is this emphasis upon the centrality of the Pleiades. It cannot escape us if we read the Blue Books, at least. If we listen to scientists, however, astronomers, there is no way in which they can evidence or support a statement like this. They see no movement of our system around the Pleiades in any way. There's no such thing that they have been able to measure, at least. And if we were to move around a cluster like the Pleiades, which in itself is a very large cluster of a certain extent, and itself being some 400 to 500 light years away, you can imagine the orbit, what it would be like, and how long such an orbit would take around such a center. It's almost unimaginable. So we have to think carefully, is that really what is meant in the teachings when it comes to the centrality of the Pleiades, that we're actually moving around the Pleiades like that? Or is there something else that we haven't really understood? When you think about that there's a movement about something being central to you, you could think that, okay, but in a sense I can understand this because my personality is in a way revolving around my soul. I mean, you can think in those terms. You can begin to think in terms of the planes and the more subjective levels and so on. And then you can understand perhaps a statement like that. But wouldn't there be some kind of an astronomy and physicality to this as well? Well, I would think so, at least. I would think so, at least. And I would think that the Pleiades are actually much closer to us than the 400 or 500 light years away that we can observe them via telescope or something of that nature. And the way that I've been approaching this, let's see what the next slide is. Well, here is something we can mention when it comes to the movement of our system, and Peter touched upon this as well. It's that the solar system has an apex movement. You know, the solar system, together with its planets, is moving in a certain direction, and that direction, as Peter mentioned, is towards the constellation of the Lyra, where is found the star Vega. It's actually probably somewhere between Hercules and the Lyra, where the apex movement is directed. So we are moving as a solar system in this direction, let's say. Then, as we are moving in that direction as a system, we are at the same time revolving around the galactic center, because that is a center which the scientists and the astronomers can substantiate that we are actually moving around. It is even further away than is the Pleiades cluster. And the way that I see these things is that the Pleiades are actually an outpost of the galactic center. They are a representative of the centrality which the galactic center represents. The galaxy, with its all-embracing arms, which Peter also showed in his pictures. Those arms are the embracing arms of the mother, the caring mother. On a greater level, and for that archetype, the Pleiades are an outpost in our neighborhood. Well, it's a large neighborhood. But they represent that very nucleus which is found in the center of our galaxy. They hold a similar vibration. And in that sense, we are beginning to understand the centrality of the Pleiades as being analogous to that of the center of our galaxy. Now, our solar system has an apex movement here, but at the same time, we're moving around the galactic center. And that movement is what we call a drift. A drift movement here, but at the same time as we're moving here, we are drifting, and the drift is in this direction. So it's not far off. The apex movement and the current drift are quite close to each other, but not exactly the same. Not exactly the same. So the drift that we currently have around the galactic center is oriented to this constellation. What is that constellation? The Red Cross. It's connected to that. Cygnus, the swan, yes. Also known as the Northern Cross, or the Red Cross, according to Peter. And there is a connection. There is a connection. Now, in many cultures and civilizations, this constellation has a very profound importance. Many are the, should we say, stones and monuments that have been directed with respect to this constellation. What is that place in England? Is it Newgrange? Newgrange, yeah. Which is also oriented with respect to Cygnus the Swan. There are caves dug out relating to this constellation. One of the special things about that constellation is the cosmic rays, the cosmic radiation, which comes from sources in this constellation. Cosmic rays, which you can, in a state of darkness, like in a cave, can experience the particles moving through you. And it was therefore part of the mysteries in many traditions to should we say, be initiated in such caves in order to experience these cosmic rays. You know, imagine in complete darkness just sensing these particles rushing through you. So there are actual rays and particles reaching us from sources in this constellation that has great tradition in many cultures and civilizations. And it is also the constellation where the galactic drift is towards. In other words, we are drifting towards the swan, towards the Northern Cross. Now, this Northern Cross is also the cross, speaking in more modern terms, the cross upon which Jesus Christ was crucified. It is a constellation related to the fourth initiation of the crucifixion and the renunciation. In terms of the extra zodiacal constellations' relationship to the zodiacal constellations, it is connected to Aquarius, which is a constellation following upon Capricorn, wherein, should we say, the first three initiations are taken, and then the fourth initiation is taken primarily under the influence of Aquarius. And hence, this cross is connected to Aquarius because that is the cross upon which we are crucified. And you actually have the nail here that is part of the crucifixion ceremony. Actually, what you have here is the whole story about what happened to Jesus Christ. Because this bird here is, in a way, the Christ. It is Vishnu, whose heart and limbs are being penetrated by the arrow, or should we say the nail, and who is nailed to the cross here, eventually. And beneath here, we don't see that, but beneath here we have the cupbearer of Aquarius. And as if this was the Christ, you know, the spear which was put in the side of the Christ, do you remember that? And there was the flow of blood coming out. Now the flow of blood, imagine that the flow of blood is coming out of the Christ on the cross here. The cupbearer of Aquarius stands underneath. He is receiving this blood into his cup. The blood is the life. It's the life-giving water, which is the blood of the Christ, really, which the Aquarian carries is in his urn, and then is able to distribute to other thirsty. And then that is repeated in the, what do you call it? When you drink a little wine and you have, what do you call it? Thank you. The toast. The communion, yes, exactly. So I'm just giving you a little connection there. Vulpecula.
Yeah.
It's the fox. It's the fox constellation. It has many meanings as well, many different meanings. But let's just put it like this, in simple terms. What we see here actually is a great triangle of three major stars and three major constellations. They are the Lyra, where Vega is found. They are Cygnus the Swan, or the Northern Cross, where Deneb is found. And it is the eagle, Aquila, where the star Altair is found. These three stars make up a triangle, which triangle we can observe very distinctly as standing opposed to another triangle on the opposite side of the heavens, which is formed by Betelgeuse, Sirius, and Procyon. Those are two opposite triangles, and we know them astronomically as the summer triangle and the winter triangle, because they're easy to spot in the heavens. So they are astronomical characteristics, quite easy to find. Now, what's interesting about this triangle is that this is the Cygnus the Swan, this is Aquila the eagle, this is the Lyra, but this is also known as the vulture constellation. Hence, it's connected to another bird. These are the three birds. This is the gateway of the angels. This is the gateway of the angels. This is the gate of initiation, which you are looking upon here. And this is the home of Agni. This is the home of fire. This is where you are initiated. It's a long story, but that is so. And you have the dragon above here, spouting his fire whenever needed, being himself, in a way, the rod of initiation, or at least carrying that rod of initiation. The flaming diamond, there was a song about that I heard some time ago.
It's coming out.
Yeah. So this is a very important part of the heavens, and it seems that we are somehow connected to it as a solar system, right? Now, if this is a gate of initiation, and we're moving in this way in terms of our apex movement and our drift, it seems that we have a definite purpose and goal in mind, and that would be the initiation of the solar logos. And of course, also those lives which the solar logos carries within his domain, like our own planetary logos, which has a distinct connection to this constellation. Now, many of you know the glyph of the Earth, astrologically speaking. It's a cross within a circle. And the Earth has a relation to the base of the spine center, which has 4 petals to it, which the cross is also representing, the 4 petals of the base of the spine center. And the base of the spine center is activated when the will is taking effect, you might say. And it certainly is doing that at the time of the 4th initiation, when the causal body is destroyed, you might say. Did you have a question, Francis? No. Now, what does all this have to do with the Pleiades then? Because the Pleiades are somewhere quite different in the heavens. They are in Taurus. And here we are in the area of, should we say, Aquarius and Capricorn, approximately. So we're 90 degrees away. But there's a way in which, let's see if I can actually shift this. Let's do it this way. No? Okay, we have to do it like so. Because, as you know, there is a precession that takes place of the equinoxes and the pole of the Earth's axis. It takes about 25,000 years or so. At the time when it's actually this time, 27 or 2800 BC, when the pole of the Earth is directed towards the star in the constellation of the dragon, which is called Thuban, 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 Thuban. Thuban was the pole star at this time, 2700 BC or 2800 BC and thereabout. And if you think back that we're now entering into the age of Aquarius, and every age is let's say 2200 years or so, and you go back, you will find that we are actually in the age of Taurus, whenever Thuban is the pole star. So there's a connection between Taurus, which is over here, and here you can see the vernal equinox right here in the constellation of Taurus, right in the smack middle of it, between Aldebaran and between the Pleiades. So whenever we have the age of Taurus, Thuban will be the pole star for us. And hence the Earth's axis will at the same time be directed into the constellation of the dragon, Draco the dragon. Now that connects Taurus with the dragon. And we know that the Pleiades are connected with Taurus. Then, should we say by transference of light, it would definitely be possible for the Pleiades to be connected to the dragon. And that is exactly what the Tibetan tells us in the teachings. He tells us that Buddhic energies reaches us from the constellation of the dragon via the seven sisters of the Pleiades. But how does that really work? Because the Pleiades are here. This is the cluster of the seven sisters. But those seven sisters are also more elaborated with respect to our solar system and with respect to our planet at the very pole of the solar system and the pole of our planet. So here is the pole of the solar system, the north ecliptic pole, as it's called. And this is the north celestial pole of our planet, which revolves around, actually it revolves around this way. It revolves around the great ecliptic pole. So it takes one lap around the ecliptic pole every 25 or 26,000 years. And in one such lap, it connects with the great dragon here. It also connects with the little bear, Ursa Minor, where we have Polaris in the tail, which is our current pole star. So this was the pole star in 2700 BC, but now it has moved and is here, 2013 AD. And it will keep moving like so. But this is the place where the pole of our solar system and the pole of our planet is found. And the pole is always something of essence. We're speaking about the North Pole here. And the North Pole is a representative of, should we say, the mountain top. So what we're looking at here is what in many civilizations and many mythologies are referred to as the mountain top. This is the mountain of initiation, in a sense, which we are actually looking at here. This is also the Garden of Eden, which we are looking at. This is the Garden of Eden. So when you read about the Garden of Eden in the Bible, this is actually what is referred to in terms of the astronomy and the astrology and the occultism of it. And here, should we say, at this mountaintop are found the influences of the three major constellations. This is the land of the immortals. We have the Great Bear with its 7 major stars circling around here. We have the 7 stars of Ursa Minor, the Little Bear, also circling around. The Little Bear being a corollary of the prototype, which is Ursa Major here. The Great Bear represents the first aspect, the will, the Father in the heavens, from a certain perspective. There are many, many perspectives in which you can see all these things. That's one of the great challenges. But in terms of our teachings, it's mostly connected to the first aspect, the Great Bear. The second aspect is often related to Sirius and our own solar system. But we cannot see our solar system because we are right in it. So we can't see it outside of us, so to speak. And Sirius itself is found in a very different location. But we have Ursa Minor, the Little Bear, being the corollary of the Greater Bear. So if this is the Father, well, then this is the Son. But it's not a true cluster, as the Great Bear is, to a large extent. But anyway, it's a symbolic representative of the second aspect of Sirius and of our solar system. So in that sense, we have a representation of the first aspect at the mountaintop. We have a representation of the second aspect at the mountaintop. What then about the third aspect? Because all 3 aspects have to be represented and come together at the point of synthesis, which the dragon actually represents, because he veils or hides or guards the treasure, which is in a sense the jewel in the lotus, which is connected to the star Thuban, actually, which in astrology is known to be guarding a treasure. So when saying that, you also understand that we're actually looking at a picture which is the constellated version of the egoic lotus, because we are looking at the manasic plane, the mental plane here. This is the location in the heavens connected to the Capricorn hierarchy and the solar angels. Now, we spoke about the birds here, the winged creatures, and of course they refer to the angels. And they represent the Capricorn hierarchy. They represent Venus as a whole, Venus being the hierarchical ruler of Capricorn. So what we would like to see also on the mountaintop here in the lotus is the representation of the third aspect, of the mother. But how does that take place? We have reasoned our way with respect to the dragon and said that there is a relation established between the dragon and Taurus, and hence also between Taurus, the Pleiades, and the dragon. And the Tibetan has told us as much, that they are in the same flow. But that is not enough, because the seven sisters are much closer to us than that. They are found, according to my understanding, in the constellations that are also part of the sweep of the polar axis. And you see many of the constellations here. So actually, when you look here upon this nice couple, Cepheus, the king, and Cassiopeia, the enthroned queen, you are looking upon the couple which is the mother and the father, the two parents, also known as Atlas and Pleione, the parents of the seven sisters in the Pleiades. So these represent Atlas and Pleione. And in a sense, Atlas, you know, we have the Atlas, what do you call it? The vertebrae. We are, in a sense, looking at the Atlas vertebrae here, and then we have the skull, the head. So you're beginning to understand the importance of this region in the heavens and the synthetic nature which the head also indicates. The mind, the head, the lotus, the mountain, the garden. All those different descriptions relate to this area in the heavens. Now, if these are the two parents, and maybe if we go back to the Pleades again and refer to them, let's see, we have a picture here. I think I have a picture with the names on them, which could help us. Yeah. So here you have the two parents, Alcyone, Merope, Electra, Maya, Seleno, Taygete, Asterope. These are the names of the seven sisters. These are the names of the seven sisters. But remember that we came to the conclusion that Thuban was somehow central in all this. And that helps us in arriving at an understanding of what sister may be related to what constellation. Because Thuban is actually found, should we say, up here with respect to the constellations around the pole. So we should be looking at this order more so. So let's go back. To this area again. So these were the parents. Now this then becomes that star in the Pleiades, which is the central star. And what was that star? Alcyone. Alcyone. And that was also the constellation towards which we are drifting in terms of our movement around the galactic center. are we seeing here that the centrality which the Tibetan has repeated again and again about Alcyone and the Pleiades perhaps can be interpreted in this way? That the movement around the galactic center is related to the star Alcyone in this manner. And then we have the constellation of the Eagle, which could be related to the star Electra, which is one of the sisters. We have the constellation of the Lyra, or the Vulture, which can be related to the constellation Merope. I'm not just saying this because of their physical location. There is a way in which you can relate some of the scant information that we have of Merope, of Electra, of Alcyone, to the different constellations that we have more information about. But I'm not going into that here. The great star in the very center of the Pleiades cluster, which is known as Maya, which also refers to something that is great, or Maha. And this is the great one, Hercules himself, which represents the star Maya. And then we actually come to a very interesting little constellation here, known as Corona Borealis, the Northern Crown, which is a combination of 7 stars like this. It's like a tiara which you wear as a crown, with 7 stars in it, or 7 diamonds, or 7 stones. And it in itself is representing the 7 constellations. And I'm using that name now because that is a name that historically has been given to these constellations. I'm not saying that it is necessarily what the Tibetan always was speaking about when he was talking about the 7 constellations, but there is a definite connection here. So this little constellation in itself is the, should we say, the synthesis of all the 7 sisters themselves, the radiant stars related to the crown, which in a sense is worn by the queen, the enthroned queen. So this little constellation in itself represents all of these. So it's quite synthetic in that sense, although quite small. And let's see, was it the constellation? I just want to check which constellation I related that to, if it was Seleno or if it was Taygeta. Let's see. Which one would you guess? Here we are. Let's see. I'm probably down here, yes. Yes, so it was Seleno. Seleno, which is related to Corona Borealis, the Northern Crown constellation. And then we have Taygeta, this star here, being related to the 2 hunting dogs, which are held by Boetis, the bear guard, the bear guard. And then we have asterope, which in a sense is actually two stars close together up here, as you can see. Two stars, which can be related to, if you want to, the two bears found around the center, or you can divide the great bear in itself in its two parts, the tail and the cup. The tail and the cup. Or should we say the serpent or the dragon and the cup? Because that is the way in which you esoterically divide the great bear. So we have, without giving too much reason, there is reasoning here, but just getting the flow of the arrangement, because that's what our minds probably are able to take. We have then brought the third aspect also to the synthesis which is found in this top of the mountain, or in this egoic lotus. Because there are, of course, three tiers representing each of the three aspects, and there's an inner tier of synthesis petals which in itself represent each of the three aspects. And then that inner tier of three synthesis petals then eventually reveals the jewel in itself. So when you deal with the 9 petals found in the lotus, you could say that you have the 7 sisters and the 2 parents representing the outer parts of the lotus, which makes sense in a way because it's related to the form aspect. You can relate these 3 stars to the external parts of the causal body, or the more, should we say, material parts or aspects of the causal body, which are the permanent atoms, right? The permanent atoms which the causal body holds, the physical permanent atom, the astral permanent atom, and the mental unit. They are, should we say, abstracted into this triangle as well. So when you deal with the petals, you have the arrangement of the 9. When you deal with the inner 3 synthetic petals, you deal with these as one because they represent the Pleades and the third aspect. So them as one then represent one of the inner synthesis petals. Whereas, should we say, the 7 sisters represent that. Then you have the 7 stars of the Great Bear representing the other synthesis petal for the first aspect. And then you have the 7 stars of Ursa Minor representing with its 7 stars the synthesis petal related to the second aspect. So the Great Bear, the Little Bear, and the Pleiades therefore eventually will reveal the jewel which the dragon, should we say, sits upon or hides or guards. And of course, this dragon is none other than the solar angel. The wings of the dragon are none but the 2 bears. They are known as the wings of the dragon This is the solar angel that you're looking at here in terms of the astronomy. He's released at the fourth initiation, basically, and he's returning after that, because the jewel is then revealed, and after that you're moving more fully into the triad, and after that into the monad proper. So there's a whole story that can be told about this area of the heavens, and it's all found in so many traditions and legends, and definitely in the occult teachings given by the Tibetan, for example, but also in the Bible and so on and so forth. So, in trying to bring the seven sisters closer to us, I am suggesting that the constellations that you find here close to the very pole of our solar system and of our own planet, they represent the seven sisters and the Pleiades. And when in the Bible it says, what does it say? Canst thou bind the sweet influences of the Pleiades? It's in the book of Job, I think. Canst thou bind the sweet influences of the Pleiades? That really refers to the ability then to, should we say, bind together the influences here found of, should we say, the Pleiades and the petals into the synthetic state of the very inner tier of petals. So, canst thou bind together the sweet influences of the Pleiades? Because what is, after all, the jewel being revealed by the dragon? Well, the jewel is, I would say, none other than the Pleiadian cluster as a whole, being an outpost of the galactic center. So in that respect, the Pleiades, on a very high level, represent spirit and monad, but still the form aspect of it. The jewel is the form of the monad. It's the vehicle of the monad as a representation within the lotus. We have to remember that on the third plane, the atomic plane, we have the spiritual will manifested, but it's still the third plane, and it's connected to the third aspect and to the Pleiades. So the Pleiades has a very close connection to the spiritual will, no doubt about it. It's even found in that region of the sky, yes, where, should we say, Atma is primarily located, just as Manas is located in this area of the heavens, which we have been focusing upon. In other words, the seven planes of the cosmic physical plane can all be related to the heavens in a very systematic manner. And so can many other things. Like the seven rays have distinct origins within the heavens. I'll come back to that in my next lecture, probably, for those of you who may still be here. So I'll probably be quiet for a while and just see if there's anything you come to think of, any reflections, any comments, any impressions at this moment? Yes. Question over there. Do you have a microphone?
Okay.
So it's Allison? Yes.
Hey, thank you so much. That was wonderful. I don't have nearly the knowledge you have, but that's always been my of the constellations. But the Pleiades has always been my favorite when I look at the sky, and it's always been very magnetic. And to me, the stars being so close together, you can't deny the interrelatedness of those stars. And to me, it just represents the interrelatedness of everything to everything. I mean, you can't deny it. Is when you look at that, it just shows how interconnected everything is.
Yeah.
So that's all my comment. So.
That's just perfect. That's the Pleiades, in a sense, being in the flow of Buddhi, represents that unified whole which we can sense when coming into Buddhic contact. So thank you.
We have just a few minutes.
In the drift as we're going towards the swan,
Yes.
did you correlate the swan with Alcyone?
Yes.
That's what I remembered. All right.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure.
And actually, when you project the solar system onto the heavenly sphere, Alcyone is that area, or the swan is that area where the earth is projected, which is a theme for meditation. Let's just put it that way.
Niklas, sometimes the Pleiades are called the jewel box. And we're told that the jewel in the lotus of the human being is sevenfold, and maybe has an eightfold radiation, but somehow sevenfold. And I've wondered whether if we, it seems that the Pleiades are, the seven sisters are special among the hundreds of Pleiades. I was just wondering about the analogy that could give us the head center of the what our local one about whom naught may be said, with the Pleiades representing sort of the jewel in the center of a 12-petaled lotus, a sevenfold center in the midst of those important heart and the head petals, which I suppose, would have to be analogized in this area as well. And with the 800, will it be a 1,000-petal lotus? Will the Pleiades have 1,000 stars or whatever?
Well, the impression I have on this is that, as I said, the Pleiades are an outpost of the galactic center. Now, when you want to deal with a 1,000-petal lotus, you're dealing with the galaxy. When you're dealing with a 12-petal lotus, within the 1,000-petal lotus, you're dealing with the zodiac. Yeah. Those are the two fields. Those are the two, should we say, centers that we have to work with.
We would still, however, have to have a head center for our local cosmic, or supercosmic logos. So, there's got to be a head center for each one of these spheres. And even though we might say that the galaxy as a whole is some kind of extraordinary head center, it seems to me that we have to find a way to find the chakric place of the various constellations within this local one about whom naught may be said. And I've always felt that...
The thing is that what I've found that, for example, when you deal with the galaxy, yes, I mean, it's beyond even the one about whom not may be said.
It's far beyond, yes.
Yeah,
far
yeah.
beyond.
But
Yeah.
it is a symbolic representation of that center, which we know of as the 1,000-petal lotus within the head center. So it is a representation of that with respect to man, a planetary logos, a solar logos, a one about whom not may be said. So you can relate it to any level in that sense. But I understand your search for the different levels.
The structural,
that one, yeah, that one always want to make. But for the, should we say, the pragmatic way to look at it is to actually view the galactic as that place to go and make your search.
And if that is the head center, if the galaxy is the head center, what are the other chakras galactically considered? Perhaps a question.
And that's where probably I'll continue in my next lecture with respect to the 12-fold, 10-fold, and 7-fold divisions related to that greater galactic field, which then would relate to the different centers and so on, and the hierarchies, the creative hierarchies, because that is, should we say, the much of the basics with respect to the galactic field.
Apparently,
because
you know,
that is where the hierarchies are found, not in the zodiac. That's the home of hierarchies.
there's some page in Cosmic Fire where it talks about the master's knowledge of great beings and their naming of these great beings. And right around 1084, 85, it seems to me that the masters have named various galaxies and families of galaxies, and they know these as sources. This seems to be about as big a picture as DK ever gives, right about there.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
so, you know, we will carry the 7-fold structure, even, who knows, 9-fold structure, 2 plus 7, on farther even than our own local galaxy. Well, okay, friends.
I actually have
Yeah.
something
Do you
that
have something?
I could round off with, if you allow
Okay.
me. Do you have a few minutes?
You have 2.
All right. So let's see, where am I? Because we've had this just say something about this quick. You know, the law of group progress, right? One of the laws where he writes that in December 1935, the energies of Capricorn were augmented by the pouring in of forces from a still greater constellation, which is to our zodiac what the zodiac is to the earth. Okay, get your head around that. It could take a while, and it's late. But anyway, let me suggest to you that what we have just been viewing could very much be related to this statement, that greater constellation, which is also known as the 7 constellations or the Pleades. This augmentation will take place again in 1942. It must be remembered that from certain angles, the circle of the 12 signs or constellations constitutes a special unity which revolves within our universe of heavens as our planet revolves in the center of our circle of influences. Okay, so we're speaking about a planet, our zodiac around our planet and around our solar system, and then something much greater around our zodiac. Okay, so we're beginning to see that it's like an onion, maybe, which you can peel.
Larger system has some kind of 7-year cycle. To me, that's really crazy.
Well, you know, it's called, let's see, I have this too. It's called the festival week. You know, it's not for nothing that it's a week. It's a week of 7 days, of course. I would say that each of those 7 days could be related to one of the 7 sisters and to one of the constellations here. Now, we're also told that the seven sisters receive the influences from the planetary logoi within our system. They are receivers from that. So it will also be possible for us to relate these constellations and the seven sisters to the different planetary logoi within our solar system. And one of the sisters will be the one which we, through our synthesizing, will relate to and which will receive the energies from us. So this week should be regarded as preeminently the festival week of the new group of world servers. And after 42, advantage must be taken of this period and special preparation made. And the new group of world servers, okay, so what sign are they connected to?
Taurus.
Taurus.
Taurus. Was there a connection between Taurus and the Pleiades? There is a connection between Taurus and the Pleiades. The group, therefore, which serves as Aquarius indicates, was Aquarius underneath? Yes. Is the hierarchy. The group which is speeded upward, upon the upward way is the new group of world servers. This group is ruled by Taurus. And to it, that divine Taurian energy brings illumination and the attainment of the vision. This group is, figuratively speaking, the bull rushing forward upon a straight line with its one eye fixed upon the goal and the beaming light. Now this statement here is actually referring to an ancient Egyptian symbol where is found the man, I forget who is standing with the spear piercing the eye of the bull. So this is a statement which also the Egyptians very much knew about. Anyway. Okay, yes. And we have arrived. But no, there was one more. I wanted the very last one, which also ties together the whole idea of the relation to Capricorn, because the law of group progress is connected to Capricorn, right? And Capricorn, is Capricorn in any way related to the Pleiades? Think about that. Well, let me just show you this little suggestion. Capricorn, the sea goat, which has one of its extra zodiacal constellations known as the dolphin, actually. The dolphin is one of the constellations related to Capricorn, which is carrying its significance of the tail, which is related to the fish, which is, of course, should we say, the Christly nature that the Capricorn initiate becomes endowed with. And that is actually connected to the Pleiades, because they represent that Buddhic quality which must be added to Capricorn in order to make him a goat, an initiated goat and a unicorn at the end. All right. All right, we survived.